Alright, well, I've heard Vic say a few times about you falling in the booth during Full Metal Alchemist. Can you tell the story in your perspective?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I was 11 whenever I started, and so I was very absent-minded and kind of like ADD acting. Like I actually have been I'm so sorry. I just spat apple on my interviewer. Okay, so let me get back on track. You see the ADD right now.
We were talking about being ADD.
Yeah, right. Easy to lose yourself at that point. Oh, thank you. So I would like move around a lot. I had a stool, and so I'd be like in this tiny booth, and I'd be like leaning back, and maybe like picking at the walls because there's like soft soundproofing material. I destroyed those walls, honestly. Like, who am I kidding? Like, it was bad. I might have even like written on them at one point. It was not good.
Aaron was here.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I wrote. Honestly. Anyway, so yeah, I was a little turd, and so I was leaning back, and what I got into was this mode where I would be like leaning back, and I'd hear the beeps. You hear 3 beeps, and then on the 4th imaginary beep is when you start recording your line. So I was leaning back, and Mike's like, all right, let's give this line a go. So beep, 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 and then I'd go up real fast, and I'd be like, brother, okay. And so this time I'm like leaning back, and beep, beep, and I try to lean forward, but the stool like gives out, like it goes the wrong way. It goes forward instead of backwards, and it ends up like I go backwards, and it pushes me against the wall, and the stool props up on the front of the booth, and so like I just end up with my legs sandwiched against my chest, and the stool like pinning me there, and the only way for me to get out myself would have been to like twist out and fall straight to the ground, and so I didn't want to do that. But I also didn't want to admit what had happened, and they heard the sound of the stool and all the crash. That's recorded somewhere. And so there's this pause, and the mic's like, Aaron? And he like looks up trying to see me, but he can't because I'm too far down. And I was just like, all I could think of, I finally realized I was gonna need help, and so I asked for it. I was like, help me. And he had to like pull me out.
And they've never let you live it down.
Never.
All right, so you mentioned that you got into voice acting because you were related to someone who was voice acting. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Justin Cook is currently like director of production at Funimation, but at the time he was acting and directing a bit, and he basically like got the impression like that I was a good reader because I was reading Lord of the Rings. I wasn't really understanding all of it, but I was reading it, and I was in like 3rd grade. I was like 9, so I was a bit above my reading level, and as a result, he decided like, why don't I try using an actual boy who I know, have a rapport with, so he won't be that nervous for this little part of a little boy, instead of using a woman. It'll sound more authentic. And so he did, and it ended up like turning out pretty good. Like I felt pretty good about it, and he felt pretty good about it, and so he had me do a larger part in the same show, and then ultimately I started auditioning for other stuff. And Alphonse was like the 1st or 2nd character I landed, actually. And I think part of the reason they gave me that part was because there were no flaps. So, so I didn't have to focus too much on the mouth movements, and they were able to like do whatever they needed to adjust. So I just had to do the acting, and so I think that's a big part of what allowed me to do that at such a young age, because it wasn't as hard as what all the other actors were having to do. So it was nice. It was like having training wheels on for my first part.
Mm-hmm. So what sort of shows do you like that aren't anime?
I like The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. I read Game of Thrones before the series came out, so I was super excited about it. I'm a big fan of Peaky Blinders, which is like a British crime show that's out. It's like on Netflix right now. And I also like westerns, like Bonanza, and I'm a big fan of MASH, actually, which is
I love MASH.
So good. That has some of the best comedy ever. I like have almost every episode memorized at this point. I've watched it so many times. That's what I grew up on. Yeah.
So what sort of actors would you actually fangirl over?
Alan Alda.
I would
He plays
too.
Hawkeye.
I would
Oh my
too.
god, yeah.
I would too.
I'm trying to think who else. I forget her name, but I recently started watching Jessica Jones, and that actress is fantastic.
I love Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
I've actually met David Tennant.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he plays Kilgrave.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy's awesome. Yeah, respected.
You were talking about you've done some directing at Funimation. So, I mean, how is that? I mean, acting is one thing, writing is one thing. What's the kind of skill set you need to be a successful director?
I think the acting and writing are both important because there comes a point where you have to know whether an actor could give you the read for a certain line, or whether between the way the line was written and the flaps and their personal cadence, whether they're capable of doing that line or whether it needs to be rewritten. And once you know it needs to be rewritten, you need to be able to. So you need the writing skill to alter the line if need be. And you also need the acting experience and also the ability to like describe how you reach a certain read. So I found I was able to mostly just like harness my acting experience and be able to like use, and also like my acting experience of like of hearing different directors and the way that they would direct me. So you can either give somebody the read you want and see how they respond to that. Like you could just say, no, say it like this and then say it. And then if they're, like I was a good parrot when I was an actor, like when I was an early actor. As Al, like I could easily say something back exactly how you had said it to me. And so that was a good like training wheels thing. And then I ended up like slowly being able to like predict what it was that they were gonna want. And just do it in the first go. Other than that, like sometimes I'll use like, you know, like little analogies. Like I'll be like, can you say that like more of like a languid predator, like, you know, leopard stalking its prey? Make it sound a little more like, you know, you just like dipped your hand in what you thought was going to be like a crate of berries, and instead it was acid. Like you're expecting it to be great. Things like that, like colorful little things, and then that sort of like idea, if they're pretending that happens, and they get a little more of the nuance of what the line is than they would just from hearing where the character is coming from.
So what do you do if an actor just can't get the line right, if it's just not happening?
You either settle for what they can do, or you say, okay, good, thanks, and then you get somebody else to do it. Yeah, I have never had to do that, but I also never had the authority to do that. Like even on the show that I was directing, that was always Tyler's call because he was my,
Like the producer?
yeah, he was my producer basically. Yeah, and he did the casting for me because it was my first show, and yeah, so he took care of the hard part. So.
Cool. So
Yeah.
how'd you get started doing conventions, and what was your first convention that you did?
My first convention was so Arizona, which was the first year con, had me and the entire cast of, it was me, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Vic Mignogna, I think Caitlin Glass, like everybody was there at this tiny con, maybe like 800 people.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first real con, but
That was where? Arizona?
yeah, Arizona. It was called Arizona, and I don't know if it's even going anymore, but.
Never remember.
But we did it, and I was super nervous, and I was like, what am I supposed to say? Because we were going through, like, opening ceremonies, and we were going through, and everybody was like, hey, I'm really glad to be here, you know? My name's Travis Willingham, I played Roy Mustang, and I was like, what am I going to say? And because they were popping jokes, and they were like, what, you're nervous? And I was like, yeah, I'm nervous. And they're like, just tell me you're nervous. So I was like, my name's Aaron, I played Al, and I'm really nervous. And then everybody was like, oh, and uproarious applause, and I was like, that's weird.
Okay, you have one more?
What's your reaction with all the fangirls?
I ran from the first girl that tried to glomp me. I actually ran. She was Titan, like she was really tall, and she was wearing a Sailor Moon costume, and I wasn't familiar with Sailor Moon. I was like, 13 probably, 14, and I just like her friends met me first, and Vic was like, you know who this is? This is good. This guy's gonna play Al. And this was before that con, so that's what I was going to say, was before Arizona, I went to a con to like get adjusted to what cons are like. There was just a con in Fort Worth, my hometown. So I just like went there for kicks to like check out the scene, and Vic happened to be there as a guest, and he happened to recognize me, and then he told some other like fans who I was, and they were like, we have to call our friend, we have to call our friend. They call their friend, and it's this like 6'7" Amazon woman in a Sailor Moon outfit. She's like, and people are like spilling to either side. It was like an anime moment. I'm just like, I ran to the bathroom, and then I slowly came back and hugged her calmly once things had chilled.
So this is when you were still a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's adorable.
It was great, actually.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Enjoyed meeting you.
Kayla.
Thank you.